Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch.
Love is blind.
Hey y'all, hey, welcome to Sisters Who Watch.
I'm Shelby.
And I'm Laura. We're sisters who watch everything. TV, movies, sports, concerts, and even couples falling in love with each other sight unseen. We love to watch, and we love talking about it even more. Today we're watching
Love is Blind. Season 7, episodes 1 through 9 of Netflix's hit dating show set in Washington, D.C.
Heyo, DC.
Chocolate City.
And before we get into it, please make sure you're giving Sisters Who Watch 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Rate, download, subscribe, and you can follow us on social media at Sisters Who Watch. And you can support us by buying our merch and subscribing to listener support on Spotify and Zelling us. Thank you.
Let's dive in. As always, here's the logline. Singles who want to be loved for who they are, rather than what they look like, have signed up for a less conventional approach to modern dating. It premiered in 2020 during the pandemic and truly has become the dating show. I feel like all of our friends, family watch it. We watch every single season. It's somehow still hosted by Vanessa and Nick Lachey, even though we've all been boycotting for years. And we are huge Love is Blind fans, so have reviewed season 4, season 5, season 6, and UK season 1, all on Sisters Who Watch. So
check it out.
If you want to go back and listen, please do. We have all the Love is Blind content you could possibly ask for.
Yes.
And like we did with seasons 5 and 6, we will be reviewing season 7 in 2 parts, people. The first half of the season, and then, of course, the latter half, focusing on the finale and reunion. Yes. Okay. Laura, what were you expecting coming into this Love is Blind season?
Well, we just finished watching Love is Blind UK season 1. Just like, It felt like yesterday.
Like weeks ago.
We dropped that episode a few weeks ago. And if you listen, you heard how much we loved it. It was so much better than the US seasons. It felt like these people were really mature and actually wanted love. And y'all, halfway through this season, clearly only a couple of them might be there for love. So bring back the UK people, please.
Take me back.
I know. So coming off of UK season 1, I was a little concerned because I was like, okay, we just had a great
justifiably so.
And season 6 of Love is Blind. That was with
Amy and Johnny giving Love is Blind.
Yes.
Adie and Clay giving us Black Love. Chelsea saying she looked like Megan Fox. The bizarre breakups of Kenneth and Brittany. And of course, Jeremy and Laura, who went back to Sarah Ann. Season 6 was wild.
Yeah, season 6 was pretty wild. Oh, and update, Jeremy and Sarah Ann, they broke up. I think like a few weeks ago.
Shocker.
I know. What? Who's surprised? Absolutely no one.
Not
yes. Amy and Johnny were the only people I was really rooting for. It feels like AD, what has she been up to? I don't really know. I haven't heard.
She kind of disappeared.
I heard that she was on a date with
Dom,
the guy. I was like the guy with the dreads. I think there was like footage of them like on a date together or at dinner. I don't
seem like a match.
I know that does not seem like a match at all. But yeah, last season it was missing a lot of romance. It had a lot of drama. I will say that. So I felt like season 6 was solid. Like it wasn't my favorite, but it was entertaining. So season 7, I was coming in a little suspect. And looking online, looking at all the men, I remember being like, I don't know how I feel about these men. I was like, these men aren't giving to me. Looking at the cast. But I will say, I saw the cast and I was like, oh, there are a lot of Black people. So that's good. Right?
It's
Chocolate
DC. City for a reason.
Chocolate City. So I was excited, like, okay, hopefully we get some Black love stories. And, you know, there are Black people in couples. So I guess that's...
Are they in love? We'll find out. But it's hard to know.
So we shall see. How about you? What were your expectations coming in?
Well, like you said, I feel like Love is Blind is always on. I feel like Netflix will not give me a break. I'm like always watching Love is Blind.
I
It's
know.
a lot, but I do eat it up every time.
Yeah,
So
give it to me.
keep it coming. Yeah. I'm at a buffet. I'm like, Love is Blind, Love is Blind. I will say I was excited that there was finally a season set in the Northeast, sort of. Do we consider DC the Northeast?
Some people don't. I think it's
It
similar.
kind of counts.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of counts.
It feels more Northeast than like Charlotte or all the Texas seasons. You know,
Yeah,
it's
very-
like we're definitely, I think, supposed to get a slightly different part of the US here.
Mhm.
The only thing is, half the cast is like from the South.
I was gonna
I'm
say
like-
lots of Southern accents. So I'm like, did we
Are
really
these
get
people
out of the
actually
South?
from DC? You have someone from Georgia, someone from West Virginia.
Okay, so first, Leo and Brittany are a couple that, you know, made it to Miami, not to Mexico. What did you think about Leo, the art dealer who could not stop talking about all the money he has inherited? And Brittany, our little, you know, Barbie, who loves, you know, who likes a nice lifestyle. Who can blame her?
It felt like Brittany was like a simulation. Like, is she a real person? It felt like they had created just like
generated.
AI generated blonde girl who is an influencer and likes nice things. Like, I didn't think she was real.
Yeah.
And then Leo, it felt like all he cared about was clout. Like, it didn't feel like he was actually here for love.
No.
And he also, I think, made me realize, oh, is this what men with money are like? Because I do not want him. Definitely not. Leo is the last guy I want. So I was concerned about the relationship and was not shocked to hear that they broke up shortly after their Miami trip.
No. I mean, they were compatible because Leo had money and Brittany likes money. Like, I feel like that's where it started and stopped. I'm curious to see what happened in Miami, you know, what led to the breakup.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to hear that backstory, and we'll definitely get that at the reunion. I feel like this will be a very, very juicy reunion. I am quite excited about that. Shelby, you saw that Leo was really active on social media. What do you think of? What do you think of that?
I feel like he thinks he's a star for some reason.
Yeah.
His ego is way too healthy for his own good. Confusing to me. I saw him posting about how he's an art dealer. It's like he's trying to be an art dealer influencer. And he thought it was so cool that I think either on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, Netflix put in its bio that it was an art dealer. And he posted about how excited he was. He was like, oh, this is the coolest thing. I don't care about a billboard or whatever, but I made it because Netflix is like talking about me in their social media bio.
Yeah. Weird. I made it. Netflix put art dealer in their bio on Twitter. Okay, girl.
Yeah. So he's an interesting one. And I just feel like he's a bad representation on the show of just men, especially rich men, especially like rich Jewish men. Like I feel like, ugh,
it's
not a good
I feel like
portrayal.
He's just both Leo and Brittany are giving stereotype to the max.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, who created these people? And they're just
both
like,
of them are AI generated.
Yeah, not real.
Yeah, I immediately at first I was like, oh, Leo seems okay, but then the first time he brought up his money, I was like, okay, like he's acknowledging his privilege, right? He's acknowledging he's a rich kid, because you hate a rich kid who's in denial, right? Being like, I wasn't rich, like my family, whatever, like we were comfortable, but I wasn't rich. You know, he acknowledges that. So I was like, okay, you know, whatever. But the fact that he kept on bringing it up, being like, yeah, like I inherited so much money. I grew up really comfortably. All this stuff. It's like, okay, relax. And they kept on being like flexing his Rolex. And I'm just like, okay, I'm over it.
Oof.
I'm over it. So he lost me very quickly. Not surprised they broke up. Not surprised. Okay, and Leva was in a bit of a love triangle with Miss Hannah, and I think this is a good segue to Hannah and Nick. What did you think about Hannah?
I wasn't the biggest fan. I saw someone say that she was like Chelsea 2.0. Remember Chelsea who said she was Megan Fox? And I was like, yikes, that's a really bad comparison. And this was before
Yikes.
I had started watching because I was a little behind to watching Love is Blind because I've been busy. And I was like, who is this? Like, I was very curious. So when I started watching, I was like, oh, I can kind of see it. Like, Hannah kind of talks a big game, but like gives insecure too,
Mm-hmm.
especially talking about her like weight and her size. And like, Hannah, you look beautiful. Like, what's the deal? Um, I also felt like it was interesting. It felt like she had like very high standards of the kind of guy she wanted to about looks. And it's like, well, don't go on Love is Blind. Like, I feel like she saw Nick and she was like, well, I always go for really tall, buff guys, da da da. It's like, well, you did Love is Blind, girl. So if your man is 5'10", that's what you're going to get. That's why I would not be on Love is Blind. Because I do think size, height can matter, particularly if you're a tall girl. Shout out to all the tall girls on this season. I'm like so impressed between Hannah and Monica. Marissa's kind of tall. Taylor's
Taylor.
tall.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's either tall or curvy. I loved it. It's great
Yeah.
representation from the
Yeah.
women.
Yeah, I agree. I think the representation this season is really great, right? Of course, race,
Everyone's
like
diverse.
diverse. And yeah, also like size and body shapes and stuff, which is great.
Yes.
Yes, I like the representation that Hannah gives us, right? Tall, stallion, curvy. She talks about her weight loss journey. Like,
Yes.
you've seen her social media? She like lost
Yes,
all
she's
this
lost a
weight.
lot of weight.
Yeah, she looks so different. And some
I
people
know,
are
I
like,
didn't really recognize her.
I didn't recognize her either. And some people are like, well, did you transform your personality? Because your weight wasn't the issue. No, all the comments, I
Oh.
swear,
Do
all the
people not like her?
after no, looked at the comments on that post. I was like, oh my gosh, people really don't like her. I mean, I think she's annoying, but
She comes off as annoying to me and
but
a
I
little
wasn't
cocky.
like I didn't hate her, but oh, the comments were bad. They're like, well, you should
Wow.
transform your personality. I'm like, oh,
Like she's saying things like, I'm way more mature to him. And it's like, girl, you're 26 and you don't really give mature, so calm down.
no,
Like,
she
just
doesn't.
because you like clean a lot doesn't make you mature.
She's a
Like,
little delulu. Yes, and just
yeah.
because, right? She talked about how she was on her own from 18. I feel like we didn't get that background about her at all.
Mm-mm.
So clearly she's gone through a lot, but just because you're like independent, right? That doesn't mean you're mature. That's
No,
very different because she's not giving mature. She's not.
not at all.
Um, what did you think about the triangle between Hannah and Leo?
I felt like Leo was clearly not the one for anyone. So Hannah, I think similar to Nicole and Benaya from UK. Like I think she knew Nick was probably the one, but she kept getting like tempted by the Sam, or in this
Mm-hmm.
case Leo. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like that was happening. But it also didn't even seem like her and Nick had the strongest connection. Like I was genuinely confused how she was in a love triangle. Because it seemed way more superficial with both of these guys compared to some of the other couples.
I agree. Nick kept on being like, "I'm so in love with you. You mean everything to me," and I was like, maybe we just didn't get any
Yes, that could be
footage
it.
of them, but it felt like we didn't get to know them at all. I'm like, have they even
No.
talked about anything? I felt like in the pods, it was just all the drama. And oh my gosh, remember when Leo started screaming at Hannah? Remember that was
Ugh.
actually really insane. I was like, oh, this guy is not all right.
So bad.
That was really bad. And when Hannah got lit, everyone chirping in her ear get to her. And maybe honestly, maybe she should have listened because she and Nick don't seem like a great match. But everyone was like, Nick's a clown, Nick's a clown, which I mean, they're not wrong.
A little bit.
You should date him. And then she was like, okay, okay, okay. And she listened to them and broke it off. And then she realized, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So she has a very rocky pods.
Yeah, I feel like she should have just left single.
Right? That's what's giving. But I think she was like, oh my gosh, I quit my job to be here. Um, I
That's why you
have to
don't quit
make
your
this work.
job.
Period. It's tough because it's like I do understand Love is Blind is a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? Like you're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
get another chance to do Love is Blind. And right, like what if you're Brett and Tiffany? What if you're Lauren and Cameron?
Yeah.
Right? I understand, like if I was presented with that choice, I could see why that's a tough decision and why you would be like, okay, I'm gonna quit my job. I can find another job. Can I find another Love is Blind, right? So I can see why she made that decision. But, right, you quit your job for two mediocre men who it doesn't seem like she really likes. I'm like, I don't think she likes Nick. I mean, okay. Getting to Out of the Pods, she wrote a whole list in Mexico of all the things she didn't like about him.
That was brutal. If you're gonna write that, keep that in your journal or diary. Don't leave that out on your nightstand for
Out
him
on
to
the
find.
nightstand. It's like she wanted him to find it.
Ugh. That's why she's kind of mean to him.
She is.
She is. That's why I'm like, why are either of them staying? I feel like she doesn't like him. I feel like he's being like verbally and emotionally abused by Hannah Loki.
I know, and I don't think he really likes her. Like, I don't.
No.
He doesn't seem that into her.
Like the racing on a duck situation in Mexico is a perfect example. Like, I don't think that makes Nick immature. I think it just makes him kind of like a goofball. Kind of like with Jeremy wearing Hawaiian shirts and Laura being annoyed. Like, I just think Nick's kind of chill, laid back, goofy, and Hannah's not into that. And she was like, I'm getting the ick. And she made it this whole big thing.
She really
did. They're just very different personality types, or
Yeah, and the way she would twist the story, like she was like, oh my gosh, she was laughing and like touching this woman, and she was calling me a jealous bee, and I was like, when did any of that happen? Like, when did? And she was yelling at me, and he was giggling and like touching her. I was like, girl, you are living in Delulu land. I was just so shook.
Very Delulu.
Oh goodness, yeah, that duck moment in Mexico. And also when he like wanted to lie about them having sex. Do you remember that? Wasn't that weird?
It was weird because I'm like, you're on Love is Blind. But you go on this show knowing your whole kind of dating life is going to be filmed. So what were you expecting?
And he said that like on camera. He was like, yeah, we haven't had sex yet. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, you're not doing a good job at hiding it.
No.
If that was what you wanted to do.
He was like, I have a reputation to uphold. I was like, I can't. What reputation, Nick?
What reputation, Nick? Literally in the pods, everyone thinks you're a clown and you're a player. No one thinks you're the sweet, wholesome person. Get out of here.
Embarrassing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now out in the real world, Hannah seems very type A,
Clean freak.
She vacuums every day.
It's too much.
Isn't that extreme?
It's right? Extreme. You don't need to vacuum every day.
Vacuum every day? When they met the brother, that was a fun moment. But the way they both were like, when the brother was like, yeah, like Hannah's kind of a lot. And like, but you can't tell her that. And clearly she dishes it a lot, but she cannot take it.
Like Candace from Real Houses of Potomac.
Period. No, literally, because she belittles Nick all the time. She's like, you're mature. And she's always like, I'm way more mature than you. And I'm like, why do you keep on saying that? I think that's so weird. I think it's a power thing, right? Yeah. She's very insecure and she like wants to like put him down. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so sad. And
I don't even like Nick, but she makes me feel bad for him.
I know. When these women on these shows make me feel bad for these men, that's how you know. That's how you know we're in a rough spot. Because it's like, I don't even like him. I didn't like him in the pods at all. And now she's making me feel bad.
And I'm out here feeling bad.
He makes a joke about her being unemployed. And the way she like was so set off and triggered by that. She was like, that wasn't nice. Why did you say that? And in my head, I was like, oh no, why would he say that to her? Because this woman is so sensitive, so insecure. Exactly, just like Chelsea. That's a great comparison. I hadn't heard that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was
people online.
Yeah.
And then what did you think of the fact that Nick lives with his parents still?
I mean, I don't love it. He's 28, which is like, it's relatively young. It's not like he's, 35 living at home, but.
And honestly, this kind of millennial era.
I know, there's so many.
It's more relatable. Like, I feel like a lot more people do still live at home.
Right.
So, like,
it's not that weird.
Don't think it's that weird. But I think, if this was like 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah. But yeah, so it wasn't the biggest red flag. Right. We know so many people who are still living at home in their mid-late 20s. But it was interesting hearing Hannah talk to the mom about him being sheltered, and Nick not being super independent. And I was so shook. His mom is Cuban. Did you pick that up?
Plot twist.
What?
She was like, this is a traditional Cuban dish. I was like, what? I was like, is every couple have a POC? I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, that might be, well,
Literally, because
true.
Taylor, right,
Yeah.
she's biracial. She's Asian. You had Monica and Steven, Alex and Tim,
Yeah.
Marissa and Ramses, Ashley
Crazy.
and Tyler. Yeah, every couple has a POC.
If you consider
I forgot Leo and Brittany.
Oh,
Nick.
yeah.
Well,
I was like, if you
Nick probably identifies as a white man.
Yes. But technically, it's like being like, oh, Peter Weber, our Latino bachelor.
Yeah, they did not say that when he was cast.
They did not. They stayed away from that. So yes, but technically, yeah, there's a little bit of culture in each couple, so that's exciting. I was so shook seeing his mom was Cuban. So on to our next couple. Oh gosh, Monica and Steven.
Poor Monica.
I know. What a tough couple this is. What did you think of them in the pods?
I initially was like, oh, they're kind of cute. Like, they seem to get along. They seem to be more mature. Steven sharing about being part Black, I thought was a great story. And then Monica ate it up. She was like, wow, he like went to the library and got books about African culture. Like, she loved that.
I was dying to see his family. I was so upset that we never got to see his Black father, who, I'm like, what does his dad look like?
Yeah, he probably looks white passing then.
I know. His dad must look white. But I'm like,
yeah.
I really wanted to meet his family. I'm so upset we didn't meet his family.
Likewise.
But yeah, if anyone has pictures of Steven's family, please send them our way. Tag us. Yeah, so that was such an interesting storyline. But he does kind of look. You can kind of see the ethnic features. Yes, you can see the ethnic features. His curly hair, like his nose a bit. Like I can see it. I can see it. And Monica is a beauty queen. What do you think of her pods?
Wait, is she actually a beauty queen? Because people would say that, and I was like, she looks like one, but did she actually compete?
Right. People would say it, so I just assumed, oh, she must have done pageants, but I cannot confirm or deny.
I like Monica, I think, but she definitely was giving like type A, but high maintenance energy. And like, oh, I only want to date, like her list seemed tough. Like, I only want to date a guy who's been to this school or like looks like this, da, da, da. I mean, she's gorgeous and she is successful and is a high paying job, so I get it. But
have standards.
For Love is Blind, and she did loosen the standards, of course. It did seem like it was going to be hard for her to find the person she wanted.
Yes, she definitely seemed high maintenance. But, at the same time, it's like, she's a baddie. She's stunning. She has a great job. Like,
you should have high standards.
Yes.
I know, it's like standards. Weird.
I know, because I'm like, I'm Monica. In my head, I'm like, I'm amazing. So it's like, yes, we do need to have standards. But, she definitely, I don't know, she seemed like very nitpicky. Remember when like Steven was just like talking and being like, oh, you're so mean. Like, he would just kind of go on tangents, and she was like, babe, you need to stop. You're doing it again. And I was like, what is he doing?
That was the moment outside of the pods when I was like, oh yeah, Monica's a lot.
Yes. So I think, yes, she has high standards, but I think it's more than that. She just seems like a lot to deal with. Like when she did that,
like she was fuming that he had a lot to say after like meeting the other couples. And then you could tell like, was like, oh yeah, babe, you're right. Sorry. Da, da, da. I'm like, why is he apologizing?
I know.
It felt like a weird dynamic.
Yeah, that was strange. She was like, you're being chatty. I was like, what? I honestly was so alarmed by that conversation. I was like, okay, she's a lot. So also in Mexico, when she was like, where was Steven during the fireworks? Why wasn't he next to me? Like, I wanted him to be next to me during the fireworks. I thought that was so annoying. I was like, Monica, like, it's okay that he wasn't next to you during the fireworks. But then, Steven is not helping this case at all. Then he comes. Well, no, Monica goes to him and was like, where were you? Like,
that was so romantic. Missed you.
Yeah, kind of snarky. And I was like, okay,
passive aggressive.
Like, let's take it down to notch, Monica. Mm-hmm. And then Steven is like, oh my gosh, like, I gotta go talk to her. So then he goes over and was like, oh, it's just, it was him, Taylor, and Monica. And he's like, yeah, Jared and I were just having, a really serious conversation. I was like, what could they be talking about? And then he was like, yeah, we're just talking about, girls sliding into DMs, wanting to, like, have sex with us. And literally, I was so startled. All of them
It didn't make
so
any
confused.
sense.
It didn't make
What
any
was he
sense.
thinking?
Monica was like, I gotta go. She was like, I gotta get out of here. And then that was like the first time we saw him like saying something really inappropriate that just like didn't, like something sexually explicit that didn't really make social sense. And we see that again. And when one of their final conversations with them, they're like talking about having sex and like it was so weird. And she was like, and Monica was like, I'm saving that for my husband. And he just seems to be like kind of kinky.
Yeah, he was giving like a freak.
Yes. And it was really weird. And he talked about sex a lot.
Yeah, he was like, oh yeah, I always, what is it, the term? Shoot. Like, when they were getting a massage, like, an erection.
Yes. He was talking about getting boners, remember, all the time.
All the time. He's like, the wind blows and I get a boner.
Yes, I was like, okay,
maybe you should get that checked out, Steven. It doesn't seem good. She was like, yeah, I'm always getting bumped poked. Or hit. Yes. I'm like, girl, I was like, you gotta figure that out.
Yes, that was during Mexico too, and I was like, that's really weird. It's weird. So then when he was getting, and he mentioned right in Mexico, like getting DMs from girls and stuff. It was like weird. And then their final convo, their scene, I was so sick. You see Monica like sad and upset. I was like, what just happened? And then Steven comes in. And she was like, I saw your phone. What was this? And basically, he was texting this girl this entire time, right? In the real world. Kinky messages. And I saw like an article being like, I love, we always have like the kinkiest time together. It was, something along those lines. And it's like, what did you make of that last combo? That was so strange.
It was weird because if you're engaged to someone, why are you texting someone else, like sexting someone else? That doesn't make sense. No. You're cheating. Like, that's not good. You might not be meeting them in person, but that's still like cheating. And then it seemed like he folded real quick. Like he was like, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have gone on the show. I'm like, how does you cheating in this way all of a sudden mean you shouldn't have gone on the show? Like, it just didn't really add up to me. It felt like he was throwing in the towel, like he didn't really want to be there. And it was just confusing. Like, why'd you come on the show, Steven, if you weren't really willing to fight for this or even interested in Monica? Like, I started to have like all these questions.
Yeah, after that, it made it seem like, was he lying this whole time? Like, the comment, I shouldn't have gone on the show, really threw me off. Because does that mean, agreed. Like, I'm not ready for marriage? That's at first what I thought it was. Or was it, maybe it's like, I am like not interested in monogamy, like, or if he's like a serial cheater and he like, or is a sex addict. Like, I was trying to figure out like what he meant by that. I shouldn't have gone on the show. I shouldn't have gone on the show. Because he could have been like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I am clearly not ready for like a committed relationship. He could have said that. But he was like, you're right, I shouldn't have gone on the show. I just thought that was so strange. Let us know what you guys think. Because I'm like, what did he mean by I shouldn't have gone on the show? Poor Monica. And I'm like, this is why we need to have standards. Because you're going to have this electrician come and screw you over. And I just, I don't know. I just felt so bad for her. I'm just like, oh, girl. Poor thing. I feel so bad for her. I know. Part of me is like,
Steven to do that.
I know. For Steven to do that to her. And like, I understand that Monica's a lot. She's high maintenance. She's not easy to deal with. But it's also like she does not deserve that. I'm like, not these men out here, the men this season, off the rails, absolutely off the rails. Okay, on to Alex and Tim. What did you think of Alex and Tim in the pods?
They seemed like a cute, boring black couple. Like, I was like, oh, they're cute. But I honestly can't remember anything from the pods besides Tim's devastatingly sad stories about his sisters and giving Alex the bracelet. That's honestly all I remember.
Yeah, they're kind of boring. I also don't remember much about them in the pods. Okay, so Mexico.
Just moving on.
Oh my gosh. They had this really bad fight. Okay, when they first started like interacting in person, I was like, I don't think these two are gonna last. Because Alex is a bit, I don't know, she seems a bit particular. Um and Tim is a bit goofy and she seems easily annoyed. She's like, stop, stop. What was that saying that she would always say? Oh, the dogs? He was like, my dog.
Yeah, and he was like barking, and she was like, no, stop.
She was like, stop, stop.
You're
and
not
she was
a dog.
like, I'm gonna get really pissed off. She was like, if you keep on doing that, I was like, oh my god.
And she said she has a quick temper, and then Tim was like, I don't like being yelled at, stuff.
Like
it just, yeah, it just seems.
Literally the first day in Mexico, I was like, I don't think these
They're
two are
polar opposites.
I was like, I don't know if these two are a match. They just don't. Their personalities just seem like they're gonna
boil in water.
Yes, and we saw that. I knew. I was like, this is not good. They had a fight off camera in Mexico, and like Tim, the conversation the next morning, he was out of it. He
said he was gonna leave.
He said he was gonna leave. He was done. He looked done. So apparently, like Alex put like her hand over his mouth. Not good. Not good. And he was just like, you belittled me. You said all this stuff. It crossed the line. It's disrespectful. I was like, oh no.
She's kind of like Hannah a little bit. Like a little, not to the same extent, or maybe we haven't seen it as much, but she is a little hard.
Yeah,
she's a little tough. She's a little critical.
Hard. She's a little
critical. And also, maybe she has like an RBF, but it seems like she's just uninterested all the time. Like, I'm like, do you even like Tim?
She does kind of have that face. And then when Tim, it's right, that conversation, when Tim was ready to go, she was like, I'm sorry. And she was like giving him a hug and he was like not interested at all. I was like, this is the first time I feel like we're seeing.
Yeah, literally all of a sudden now she's showing emotion.
Right? That's what it was.
It seemed out of character. It seemed kind of fake. I was like,
I know. That's what it was giving.
And I'm always rooting for Black people, Black women, Black love. Yeah. But they just don't seem like a healthy match.
No, they don't. And I like both of them like individually. I just don't think together. I know. And plus Alex is like stunning. Like she's right curvy. Mm-hmm. And right, I feel like super represented by her on the show. So like that's awesome. But yeah, I just don't know if this is a love story I want. No. I know you really like Tim's house. Tim had a nice house.
Oh, that was a highlight. This like 32-year-old man with a huge house. It's immaculate. It's nicely designed. There are touches of like his family throughout. I'm like, he seems like a catch.
I know. He seems lovely. And I'm just like, I'm like, what's wrong with him? This 32-year-old,
waiting for the ball to drop.
Right? This 32-year-old, like, attractive Black man with a great house. I'm just like, because all these men, I'm like, oh, they seem so great. But then we're slowly seeing throughout the season.
Hopefully Tim stays like an angel.
I know. I hope so, too.
I wouldn't be able to handle any more bombs.
I know. All these men are turning. I'm like, what's going on?
It's too much for me.
Something else I also loved about this couple, Alex's family. Oh my goodness. And she kept on being like, my family's so important. My family's so important. My dad's everything to me. My dad's everything to me. And I just loved seeing her and her family. And when Tim read that letter to her dad, I was crying. And I do not cry that much watching these shows, but I was actually in tears. Oh, it was so sweet. And the dad was like basically in tears and was like, welcome to the family. Meet your new brother. And I was just like, what do you think?
Precious.
So precious.
And we have an aunt with MS, so I completely understand like that dynamic. And so you could tell like how important it was for her dad to be involved, particularly with like his declining health. So I thought it was so sweet that he was able to be there, was able to be on camera, and that Tim was able to get his blessing. When he was like, you're my son, brother, sons, meet him. I was like, this is too much. It was beautiful. So that part I liked, but the rest of their relationship just seems like red flags all around.
I know. So after that, I was like, oh, they're so sweet. But I don't know. Imagine if Tim says no at the altar, which he probably should. And like seeing her, oh no, I can't.
I hope not.
Even speaking it into existence, I'm like, oh no. I know, I don't think they should get married. Okay, on to Marissa and Ramses. They had a little, Marissa had a little love triangle with Bowden too. What did you think of this triangle in the pods?
Well, I told you as I was watching, I don't know what it was. I wasn't that into Ramses. Like, I thought Marissa and Bowden had more of a connection. The military piece and Ramses. I know Marissa said she wants someone a bit more like different and unique, but I'm like, is he too kind of unique for her? You know, like, is he too kind of politically liberal for her? Like, I was feeling that, and then now in the real world you're starting to see it a bit. So I don't know why I wasn't a fan in the pods. It just, maybe I could sense there would be like a lot of differences. So I was team Bowden, actually.
That's so interesting. I didn't pick that up in the pods. I was just like, oh, Ramses is kind of quirky, and I was like, oh, so is Marissa. I feel like
she is quirky. That's what she's interesting. She's confusing to me. I'm like, she's a military girl, conservative, but loves fantasy books and astrology and doesn't believe in religion.
And now, like, a lawyer? I know, she's like, she has a whole lot going on. Yes. And I do like that. Marissa's interesting. I want to really like her for her. And I like, she's a kooky black girl, never seen anyone like her.
We need more kooky representation.
So I love that for her. And I think her and Bowden had like really similar personalities. I feel like they were both the same kind of wholesome, and maybe, Ramses is a bit more like edgy and creative, but I think they also match well. They're so different, but Marissa, right, is such a unique personality that she matches really well with both of them somehow. Yeah, I wasn't really team either of them. I think I personally just liked Bowden more because I was like, oh, Ramses is clearly not my kind of person.
Yeah, he's not my type.
No, and Bowden just seems so like kind and sweet and lovely, and I was just like, oh, he's so cute.
I'm like, girl, that's the guy you need. And not that, honestly, I do think out of the pods and you see Ramses and Marissa's chemistry, it's like, oh, I can see maybe why they connected more, like outside of the pods. But in the pods, I was not into it.
Yeah. What did you think of the Cancer Leo moment in the pods?
When she asked Ramses what his astrology sign was, and he said Cancer, and she's like, well, you're like rising sun and moon, and he was like Leo. She freaked out and was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. You have no idea. And then she went out and ran and told all the girls he's a Cancer Leo, and they didn't really understand. And what's crazy is, like, right after that, she decided to like break up with Bowden and stay with him. So that made me nervous. Like, are you only picking this guy because of the astrology compatibility? Because, girl,
that's what it was giving.
That's not, in my opinion, I know a lot of people are into it, how you should be making decisions about who you're dating.
No. It seemed to me that she was maybe already slightly leaning towards Ramses, and then the Cancer Leo thing was probably like a sign to her being like, okay, this is a clarity I needed.
Tipped it over the edge.
Right? That's what I think. But I agree. It seems like after that, she was like, okay, he's my man. Yeah. And like you said, out of the pods, and especially when they met in person, I was like, oh, these two, right? They do kind of look like they could be related.
Ethnically ambiguous siblings.
Yes, maybe cousins. I don't know if they could be siblings, but maybe cousins. But their chemistry is electric. Crazy. Right? They were like all over each other. All over each other.
Probably the only couple, or like the couple that has the best chemistry.
100%. I agree with that. But we kind of see that, chemistry is just one thing and it kind of fades, right? Because we see that once they start having these like really deep conversations, they're both on the same page with religion, but it was cool to see them being like, okay, how do we want to incorporate religion into our wedding and into our lives, et cetera, et cetera. But what did you think of that whole military conversation? That was rough. That was so rough. I felt really bad for her. So basically, like, Ramses is like, yeah, I acknowledge that you're a veteran and that you're proud of your service, but I am vehemently against the military. Um, and if you ever decide to rejoin, like, it's over.
Brutal. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like they are so different on like major issues. Like, how are you going to make that work? I can understand both sides.
Yeah.
He said he's from Venezuela, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a country that's had a lot of issues with like military and politics. So, and then he comes to the US. Like, I can see how your upbringing can cloud your perspective. And sadly, in the US, like politics, military has gotten so polarized. So I get where Ramses is coming from. Like, our military, you look at like the Vietnam War, like, oh, it has done a lot of bad things. But then you have Marissa, who literally served in the military. And like, that was a core part of her life. And most of her friends are in it. And she clearly was trying to grapple with like, yeah, the military has done bad things, but like, this is an important part of my life and changed my life. Like, I don't know how that's something you work past.
I know, that was so rough. And when she was having that moment being like, I'm getting really overwhelmed and I feel judged, I felt really bad for her because, right, like, she's coming to terms with it. And like she was saying, a lot of people, right, join the military when they're really young. And a lot of people
You don't really understand.
You don't even understand what it really means. And a lot of people join like out of necessity, right? Like to get education, right? Like they join for that reason. So a lot of people are like, I'm not here to like destabilize countries, right? Like that's a lot of people don't even understand that. And her being like, I'm proud of my service. I support the troops. And him being like clearly really uncomfortable by that. It's like, how are you going to get past that? That's such a huge part of who she is. And all her friends are like, well, we're in the military. Do you think we're all bad people? And ooh, that was just really rough.
I was like so uncomfortable watching those scenes.
Oh no. Because yeah, I don't think either of them are like, I don't think Ramses is incorrect for having those feelings.
No, not at all.
But it's like, if you like, I don't think you should marry her, right? If you
No,
are
like,
that
I think
opposed to the
that's
military,
why
you should not marry her.
Yeah, that's why literally you rarely see like very extreme liberals and very extreme conservatives in relationships together. Like, those are really big fundamental differences.
Yeah. So another reason why her and Bowden might have been a better match, because right, they're both out of the military, both like pretty progressive. They talk about in their pods, and Ramses is, you know, very progressive but very against the U.S. military, and like, you should not you should not marry Marissa, who is proud of her service and supports the troops, if you are vehemently against the military. So another conversation that made me feel so icky was that whole birth control conversation. And I guess they just
Amy and Johnny 2.0.
I know, Izzy and Johnny 2.0. I guess they have just not been using protection, because it seems like they're that doesn't seem very smart. But she was like, yeah, because they're talking about kids, and they're like, yeah, like not right away. She's like, oh, I don't want to go back on birth control, right? And it's just like Izzy and Johnny. He was like, well, I don't want to make you like change your whole body, but I'm not wearing condoms. Just like, he's like, it's just not enjoyable for me. And I was like, Ramses, this is where you're losing me.
Real quick.
This is where you're losing me. What'd you think?
Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's kind of giving like, what do you call it? Like those guys that like love a black queen, and you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Yes, like, he's like giving a fake like fake male feminist. Yes. He's like, yeah, I love women. Women have a right to like very progressive hippie. Yeah, women have the right to do whatever they want with their bodies. But then he's like, well, I'm not wearing condoms, so you need to go on birth control.
He
Sir?
literally, this moment, I was like, oh, you're a walking contradiction.
I know. Literally, this moment, I was like, okay. So you're so progressive that you hate the troops, but you refuse to wear a condom. Because
It
it's
was
uncomfortable. Okay.
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 Yikes. Yeah, that lost me too.
That lost me. I don't think these two should get married.
I also feel like the mom is not on board. Marissa's
the
mom,
who has who they all have different dads
apparently.
and all black fathers to note.
You know,
Do you think
sounds about right.
I know. I was like, all of them have different fathers and all black? That was wild. I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm like triggered.
I know. What ethnicity do you think the mom is?
I literally started to do research and was
Yeah.
like trying to figure it out. I think she's like Persian or like Middle
okay.
Eastern,
Yeah.
like a Kardashian. I think
That's
that's what she is because her last name's like Abad or something.
Okay.
And I was like,
Okay, that makes sense.
What
That
it
makes
is.
sense. Yeah, I thought her mom was so interesting.
She was rough, like when she called her own daughter a bitch and like, yeah, Marissa's hard to be around. I was like,
Damn.
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yikes. That was
And then she was like, I won't give my blessing until you get a prenup. Like, she was not messing
and Marissa
around.
was like, why? Like, it seems like Marissa didn't even want a prenup, and she was like, you have to get a prenup.
No.
And it's like, yeah, I thought that was very strange. Yeah, the mom was strange. Okay. Are you ready for our next couple?
Yes. So many couples this season.
I will say about this season, I love how many couples there are. Compared to Milton and Lydia.
Oof.
And Izzy and Stacy.
Stacey?
That season was so bad. Okay. So many couples. Okay, Taylor and Garrett. What do you think of Taylor and Garrett?
I feel like they're one of our more wholesome couples.
Oh yeah.
They're cute. I'm a fan. They both seem sweet. Garrett seems like a good guy. Taylor seems like a mature basketball playing girl. Like, I'm into it.
Yes, I think Taylor is so gorgeous. Like I like every time she's on screen, I'm like, like her face, like she's amazing. Like her hair, her face,
the freckles. Like,
yes,
she's very
she's
pretty.
just so stunning. And I thought it was so interesting in the pods. What do you think about Taylor not sharing her mom's name and like we're like not talking about race or anything?
You know, it's love is blind, so I appreciate that. I think she maybe was almost like too serious about it.
Yeah.
Like, and too nervous about it. And it's like, girl, like, it's love is blind, and right, you're not, I think you can say your mom's name, but I understand. Like, I think she was almost being a little too serious.
Yeah. Maybe, I agree with you. And I mean, maybe for her, I don't know, but I feel like race is such a huge part of who someone is. I feel like that's something I would have to talk about in the pods, you know, and not just about looks, but how you like view the world and, you know, how that's just going to play into a relationship because that's such a huge part about it. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Just, I mean, apparently Lauren and Cameron did talk about race the whole time and look where they are now. So
yeah, I think it could depend on the person, like how they move in the world.
Right.
Like, maybe for Taylor, she doesn't want to just be identified as like a, you know, biracial Asian woman. So like maybe she's like more comfortable not leaning into it as much.
Right. It's not something that maybe she deals with or talks about, you know, all the time. Yeah. Something else, they're also both into science. It felt like, you know, how each season it feels like there's a plant. Like there's one couple that just seems so obviously perfect for each other.
Yeah.
You know, like Brett and Tiffany, Steven and Sabrina, those couples felt like they were put on the show being like, okay, these two will probably be a good match. And Taylor and Garrett, just immediately when they started talking, I was like, oh, the producers knew that these two would connect. Both into science. And then the real world, they seem to just be just so perfect. You know, we don't really see many issues between them. But the distance, right? So Taylor, her family's in San Diego, even though she lives in DC. She wants to move to San Diego. What do you think about, you know, Garrett possibly having to pick up and leave his whole family in Virginia?
it's a big proposition.
Yeah.
And it seemed like he was a bit like surprised, or like maybe it was once they were in the real world, he started to realize like, oh, that's a big deal. I do feel for Garrett because, you know, he's from Fredericksburg. That's where he lives now. That's where his family is. Like, I can imagine he wants to like continue to have those roots and connection there. And San Diego is literally as far as you could possibly go in the US.
Yeah.
Different time zone, very different energy than like Virginia. So it's a big choice. I can see why he's hesitant. I'm just curious, like, was there a clear discussion on like, oh, this is what we're gonna do after the pods? Because it didn't seem like that from what we saw.
Yeah, I agree with you. They didn't. I don't think we saw that conversation in the pods.
Mm-hmm.
Something else with them, they seem to be like one of the more supportive couples. You know, there for everyone. The way they supported Monica.
After her Steve debacle.
That was really sweet. Okay, on to our last couple, Ashley and Tyler.
So they have been my favorite couple. Some recent news might change that. But, you know, I love that they prayed together. I love that they listened to music together. I love that they were just giving like Black love. They were into each other. The energy they had once out of the pods, they had chemistry. Tyler kept being like, we're getting married. Like, he was just so into her.
I know. And he kept on being like, you're just so beautiful. Oh, look at you. You're amazing. And he kept me, you know, he's hindsight. I'm like, oh, he was so over the top. And I'm like, that's kind of a red flag when they're like, so.
I ate it up.
I know. Me too. Yeah, so what we're referring to, so in the final episode of the first half of the season, we see a conversation where Tyler and Ashley are having a really serious conversation. And she's like, you should have told me this before, not 2 weeks before the wedding, that you have 3 sperm babies. That's how she describes it on the show. Right? He might have like donated to a sperm
donor.
Yes, yeah, like, or something. We don't get details on the show. No. But then all this stuff on social media is like blowing up about him, that he actually like dated the mother and they were a couple, and that he's still involved with their lives, and like the kids call him dad, and there's pictures of them like with pictures like as a family, and you're like, okay, this guy is clearly just not a sperm donor. I don't think he's a sperm donor. He seems very involved with these kids, and that he was with the mom at some point, and they have family pictures together. And also there's a Facebook thread with like the babies, like the baby mama or like the mom of the baby mama. It's slightly unclear who exactly this is from, but they're like, where's Tyler? We haven't seen him. He hasn't been in contact with his kids for over a year. And you're like, what is going on with this man? He hasn't seen the kids in a year, and you're the dad? Like, there's just so many questions. And right, a year ago was when they filmed Love is Blind. So it's giving maybe like he got married to Ashley and then just stopped communicating with the kids. Like, that's where my mind went. He got on the show and then he just like completely cut off the kids.
Oh my gosh, what a nightmare.
Tyler, I'm so mad at him.
He literally met Ashley's dad and they hit it off and saying all these things. I'm going to take care of your daughter.
They can't be trusted. Yada. I'm like, what is wrong with him? He seems so perfect, so lovely, so trustworthy. He was all in, all about Ashley. To find out that he has a secret family?
Yeah, this one makes me like really devastated. I feel like there've been a lot of revelations on these shows. And watching The Bachelorette and finding out that, you know, Marcus had allegations, that was bad. But this is probably the worst.
I think this is also one of the worst, too.
It's really bad.
Like, oh my gosh. And plus, right, we were talking about this before. You have to, this isn't Ashley's fault, right? Like, how, she can't know any of this. She can't know that, right, he told her that these are sperm
you have to trust
babies.
Him. Yeah.
Right? You have to trust what he's telling you. You know, you can't, like, if he's telling you, oh, I was a sperm donor, then right.
Why would he lie about that?
Why would he lie about that? She would. How could she know that these
You can't.
are actually he actually was with the mother. He's involved in their lives. They call him dad.
Oof.
It's just like so devastating because
like,
I feel like they probably get married. And honestly, I hope she says no. I think they'll probably get married. And she's going to find out all this stuff now that these kids are not just sperm babies.
Oh, gosh. I can't even think about it.
I know, it makes me really sick. I'm like, this is really devastating.
Let's change the subject. We got to move on.
No, they were my favorite couple, but, then all this came out. Okay.
Okay, game time. Red flag, green flag, 1, 2, 3. Laura, is it a red flag to expect your significant other to move across the country for you?
Maybe I would say expect is probably a red flag, right? Taylor said that they talked about it in the pod and said he was open to it, but maybe he didn't know, like, oh, this is definitely happening.
Yeah, like we're moving right after we get married.
Right. I think there was a bit of communication. So expecting, I would say a red flag.
Especially, right, this show is set in DC. You all live in DC. So I think the reason Love is Blind does that, because a lot of these dating shows, they struggle when you pick people from all over the country or world. And so, like, after the show, ideally, right, you're in the same city and, like, you can easily connect in each other's lives. So to actually be like, oh, no, actually, yeah, I live in DC, but I'm trying to move back home to San Diego, that's, like, a big difference. And definitely probably not something Garrett was expecting when he signed up to be on the show with all the people from the DMV.
Definitely. Okay, Shelby. Is it a green flag to quit your job for a dating show?
No, I don't. I think if you are like an entrepreneur or like freelance and have flexibility in your work, that's great. But to like quit your job, especially like in this environment,
in today's economy,
like it's hard out here. People getting laid off left and right. Like, I wouldn't be so confident to think you'd get a job right away. So I would not. I mean, hey, maybe Hannah thought she'd become an influencer after the show, which a lot of people do. So that could be a factor.
Right. So yeah, maybe she like wanted to quit her job, right?
To pivot, yeah.
Do influencing, whatever. Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, Love is Blind is a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. And you can, right, especially if you don't love your job, right, just, quit. You can find another job. But can you ever go on Love is Blind again? No. So, it's not a great
What show would you quit your job for?
Not The Bachelor. Definitely not The Bachelor. I don't think I would go on Love is Blind, but if I were to go on a dating show, it would be Love is Blind. And if I didn't like my job, I would quit. Like, if it wasn't my dream job, right? You're 26. You're probably not going to stay at that place forever. Mm-hmm. You can quit your job. Like, maybe, I mean,
The Amazing Race.
Honestly, I might quit my job for The Amazing Race. Depends on the job. But The Amazing Race, if they call me and my job won't let me go, I'm sorry, I'm leaving.
That's the only one I could think of where I'd be like, okay.
I know, I was going to say, like, maybe Survivor or The Amazing Race. I would quit my job. I'm like, especially The Amazing Race. That's amazing. So like, I'm going on The Amazing Race. Yeah. Sorry, job. Like, I'm out of here. Okay. Overall parting thoughts. First half of Love is Blind, episodes 1 through 9. How are we feeling?
I thought it was a watch. Especially with, the Black POC cast, really giving Chocolate City. Yeah. But now that I know more news about how Tyler is a clown, I just feel like we're going to get our hearts broken. I feel like no matter the ending, it's not going to be good. And so now I'm a little concerned. I'm going to, of course, still watch. Yeah. But yeah, now I'm a little like uneasy about this season. Whereas before I was like kind of into it.
Yeah, I'm scared. I honestly am like really concerned. I'm really concerned about how this is going to end. Yeah, the diversity of the cast is great. We love to see it. I mean, there's like 4 Black couples.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's unreal.
I mean, I'm assuming Marissa and Ramses identify as black. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Remember they were in bed, and remember when Marissa was like, "I want to have a black wedding," and he was like, why would you want to have a black wedding?" And she's like, "Babe, we're black." Remember she said that.
I guess I don't remember that.
Oh, that was a whole conversation because I was like, "Why would you want to have an all black wedding?" Anyways, so yeah, there's.
Oh yeah, they were talking about the outfits. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, the fashion. Okay.
So the couples to watch, I think the only one who should say yes are Garrett and Taylor. That's who I think should say yes. Should say yes. Everyone else I think should break up.
Definitely Hannah and Nick do not
They
get
should
married.
break up.
They should not, based on what we know about Alex and Tim.
They just
I
don't
think
seem
they
compatible.
could, but they don't seem compatible. I think they're gonna. If Alex is such a fighter and Tim is like a very passive guy, it's not gonna work.
No, it's not.
They're gonna be miserable.
Yeah, they're not gonna be good.
Similarly, Marissa and Ramses, too much conflict.
No.
Already.
And like she said, her military service is a huge part of who she is. And if that's something he just like can in no way support.
Like when he said he would divorce her if she went back into the service, I thought that was wild.
And for her to feel like when she was like, "I feel really judged right now," that made me feel like really upset for her.
She should feel judged. He is being very intense.
He is very much so judging you. And right, like that's such a big part of who she is.
Oof.
And she's like, "I'm proud of my service." And for her to like have to defend her military service, like that's not okay, right? That's not okay. So I just think they should not get married.
And then Ashley and Tyler.
I think they will probably say yes at the altar. That's my prediction. Based on what if she is really listening to her intuition and being like, this man lied about having these 3 kids. I mean, if she's just my thing is like, if he's telling her, "Oh, these are sperm babies." If he, that could mean like him going to a sperm bank and like donating sperm. I feel like that, right? That is different. I feel like if I was with someone who did that, I'd be like, okay, like I could be okay with that. But
yeah.
Does she know like, oh, like I know these people and like I'm involved with these kids? I feel like that's
because he's lying. Like he's really lying
because they're not sperm babies.
They're
and
not.
We just don't know
he
how
was
much
in a relationship with
right.
Yeah.
So, but the fact he didn't tell her is such a red flag. So I think if she's really listening to her intuition, she'll say no. But I have a feeling that they're gonna get married.
So of course the rest of season 7, 2 episodes premiere on Wednesday, October 16th, 1 episode on Wednesday, October 23rd, and then the reunion on Wednesday, October 30th. So the next 3 weeks we'll have new Love is Blind content every week. Get ready. And we'll be back after the reunion to recap it all. And of course, we've already dropped some social media teen updates, so stay on your phones, people, because there could be more bombs dropped.
It's changing every 5 minutes. The drama, the tea.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Can't make it up.
Yes. So if you enjoyed our review of Love is Blind Season 7, please give Sisters Who Watch 5 stars. And you can support us by buying our merch on our website, sisterswhowatch.com, doing listener support on Spotify, and you can also Zell us, sisterswhowatch@gmail.com.
Yes, we really want to hear from y'all. We have comment features on Spotify. You can always comment on YouTube and social media. You can email us at sisterswhowatch@gmail.com to give advice, feedback, recommendations, whatever it is, you name it, let us know. Thank you so much for watching.
Everything!
Thanks for watching.